time to move forward. A couple of other things real quickly. And I want to give you some context with respect to some of the subject matters that's going to be coming forth in the coming weeks. So you want to stay tuned. You want to be engaged. You want to understand exactly what's going on, how it's going to impact you, and how we are shaping this platform to benefit Black America, how we're going to work towards saving a planet. Very big, monumental task, and some people are going to say, okay, you, Michael, who are you, and how are you going to get this done? I'm not going to get it done by myself. It's going to be a collection of individuals that's going to help get it done. But just understand that we are positioning ourselves to take advantage of that opportunity when it comes. All right? Okay, so that being said, what I want to talk about today is not that plan in itself, but I do want to take an opportunity to really address at the core of the subject what's something that's very important for the listening audience. So we are at a critical point. We are in an election season. We have a number of individuals running for office. We have primaries taking place every day. We have votes being cast. We have early voting. And all of this happening in the midst of a series of legislation that has actually been enacted over the past year over the big lie. Everyone claiming that there was widespread fraud. And as a result, we actually ended up with a president that did not deserve to be president or is an illegitimate president. Understand a couple of things. 2016, we had a presidential race, and there was proof. Okay, there was proof after an investigation lasting several years. There was proof that there was foreign interference in the elections for leading up to 2016. Okay, all right. So let's just put that to bed. There was proof. Okay. Fast forward to the 2020 elections. Okay, everybody and their uncle is talking about this big lie and how we have had widespread fraud in this election. After every bit of wrangling legally in the courts, left and right across the different states where the candidate that lost actually succumbed to the results of this election. The individual basically has said, let me call his name, Donald Trump has basically said, him and his party, that that was an illegitimate election because there was widespread fraud. After it's been fought and litigated in the courts, there has been no evidence of widespread fraud across the entire U.S. electorate that would justify this individual actually making those claims. So each and every individual that's currently in the election cycle right now that is running on the big lie, hold them in check. That's all I'm going to ask you to do. Hold these guys in check. Okay, there has been no proof. Call it what you want to. And if someone wants to align with that, fine. But I'm going to tell you this. 2016, after we said, many of us said, hey, foreign countries involve themselves in the U.S. election to swing the vote in favor of Donald. We were told, the U.S. electoral, the U.S. population was told, especially those that lost, where their candidate lost, we were told, get over it. Okay, we were told to get over it real quick. Okay, so I say this to the other party. There was no evidence of widespread fraud in the 2020 election. Get over it. Move on. We got bigger fish to fry. Okay, so any politician that's out there purporting this stuff, keep them in check. Okay, this is not the day or the time. We got bigger fish to fry. We got too much on the agenda. We've got too many more things that we need to deal with. And at the end of the day, if you want to say that it was a steal, fine. But look, this pandemic is not over. Okay, we have made significant progress in this pandemic, but this is going to be a lead into my next subject and what the core of this conversation today is going to be all about. So let's get into it. So we got bigger fish to fry. Let me talk about the hard-hitting subject of today, what people are mostly concerned about, and that is inflation. Okay, so I mentioned on the show several months back, because at that time the question became, why are we facing a supply shortage of various products in the United States? Okay, so let's move forward now. We have gone past supply issues in some respects, and now we are dealing with inflation as a result of that. Now, there's no one thing that we can point to that's going to be the silver bullet with respect to why we are dealing with record inflation. There's no silver bullet on why we are dealing with record inflation. There's a combination of things. Okay, so understand this. I'm gonna go through these subjects, and I'm gonna talk about them in detail a little bit. Okay, so a couple of things. Ending globalization is going to lead to a rise in prices. It's going to cause inflation. A limited labor supply. Okay, when you have individuals that are not able to work in jobs, when you have a limited labor supply, you are going to face inflation. Commodity price spikes brought on by the war in Ukraine. Okay, we are dealing with oil here. That is going to cause inflation. Global supply chain issues stemming from the pandemic are going to cause inflation. Goods and services, the imbalances between goods and services is going to cause inflation. Okay, when we have imbalances in demand and supply, it's going to cause inflation. When we have climate change and drought, we are going to have inflation. When we have rising or interest rates that stay low for too long a period of time, we are going to cause inflation. Okay, so there are a host of issues going on simultaneously. No one issue, and everyone really needs to understand this for what it is. Let me just take a deeper dive into this so everyone understands. We had a president, 45, that ran on a platform of America first. We want to manufacture things in America. We want to build things in America. We don't do that anymore. We want to put tariffs on foreign countries that are shipping counterfeit stuff to the United States, so on and so forth. While a lot of that stuff was very good and substantiated, understand something. The U.S. manufacturing costs are some of the highest in the world. Why do you think that global companies go to foreign countries to acquire goods? Because they can do it for cheap. Okay? There's a specific reason why sneaker manufacturers go to foreign countries and employ slave labor and pay these individuals along the lines of 30 cents per hour to manufacture sneakers. And they have them living in the worst of conditions, mind you, while having to meet a specific quota to qualify for that salary. Okay, when we shut down those types of operations and start manufacturing locally, if we don't have technology in place, robots and all of these different things, all types of automation to bring the cost down, we're going to be facing inflation because the cost of manufacturing in the United States is much higher. Okay, labor supply. I'm going to talk about the pandemic and a couple of impacts here real quick so everyone understands. Okay. Understand we only have like 14 minutes left on this call. So the pandemic and the mishandling of the pandemic, not just here in the United States during the time that it actually started, but around the globe. Okay, understand something. This pandemic, we just reached a milestone in America, 1 million people dead. Okay, I need everyone to really listen to this next statement that I'm going to make, and I'm going to substantiate this at a later time with the source. But it's my understanding that we lost roughly 1/4 of our truckers in the supply chain industry to the COVID pandemic. Okay? That is significant. When you're talking about losing 25% of your trucking staff to a pandemic, that is significant. We have a shortage of truckers in the United States. We knew that, okay? So we have less individuals to move goods and services across the board. So we have a limited labor supply. We also have a rise in other jobs. And we have people who are working in some industries to make ends meet, no longer working in those industries. Healthcare being one of them, the restaurant industry. So when I say that, we're talking about not just limited labor supply. I'm tackling two things at once. I also talked about goods and services imbalances, that speaks to that as well. Okay, when we have disruptions in the labor force associated with supply chain, we're going to have disruption in the supply chain. Okay, and those disruptions are going to cause food shortages on our shelves. We're not going to be able to get the things on the shelves as quickly as we want to. We have a number of systemic issues that we have to deal with. So it's a series of events. Okay, I also want to talk about climate change and drought. The West, California, states out west, dealing with fires and drought to no degree. We have lakes that are drying up. Lake Mead, where they're finding dead bodies from the mafia from decades ago. It's a sad situation, but the bottom line is those lakes are drying up. We have farmers that are going out of business because they no longer have a method by which they can actually irrigate their crop. So we're going to start to see food shortages across the United States. Okay, now we can try our best to import a lot of that stuff, but what that then causes is what's called an unfavorable balance of trade. A balance of trade basically means that you have, or you need to have, a balance between the number of exports that you have to foreign countries, but likewise we need to also have a balance of those imports coming in from foreign countries. So if we actually start importing more than we export, in some respects that's not necessarily a bad thing, because again, we can meet our demand, but that supply is also going to be limited in some respects. We can't expect that everyone is going to bend over and say, here, let's give the United States everything they need. You have to understand we've also ruffled a couple feathers. We have relationships that we need to rebuild. And these are some of the things that are out there in the environment, that are out there in the universe, that we really need to talk about, so people have a really clear understanding of how this really impacts us as Americans. So the last part I want to talk about real quick is just interest rates in general. So while we were then talking about economic recovery, when everyone was talking about the recovery during 43 and 44, the 43rd and 44th presidency, Obama years, we were talking about how fragile the economy was. And as a result, what we did was we forced the Fed to keep the interest rates low. What this led to was an economic boom. Companies can borrow money at a very low interest rate. They made investments. We actually had to respond to the pandemic, and our ability to borrow money as corporations at a lower rate actually helped us to overcome some of those obstacles. However, those interest rates, we cannot expect them to stay low forever. And as a result, what happened was we saw an increase in the interest rates in such a manner that it's starting to cause companies to scale back on their borrowing, which is going to result in them scaling back in some investments that they actually want to make within the company. Now, this was a good run. We had a good run for lowest interest rates for a while, and this run produced some great things. We actually had a booming economy. I can remember some decades ago, I was having a conversation with one of my work associates about the Dow, and he asked me the question, will the Dow ever hit 17,000? Back at that time, it was 15,000. And I say, yeah, we'll hit 17,000 one day. But here we are, the Dow's at 35,000 plus, okay? Record growth. So these things, you have to keep these things in the back of your mind. And everyone's going to put their spin on what we should be talking about from a political perspective, an economic perspective. We have to understand and put things into context, and we have to do our own research to make sure that we are not dissuaded and told untruths, okay? So I'm not going to ask you to believe everything that I say. I'm going to ask you to go out there and do the research for yourself. And I'm not talking about going on Wikipedia. I'm going to ask you to go to some very reliable sources for this information. I'm not talking about going to Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, News Nation, none of these things. I'm going to ask you to go to where the sources validate this information. And someone may tell you that, what you're seeing is not really the truth. Come on now, let's be for real. Okay, so go to the International Monetary Fund and research it for yourself. Go to Bureau of Economic Analysis and research it for yourself. Go to whitehouse.gov, research it for yourself. Okay, so you have to understand that the news media is looking for that next news cycle. They are looking for that next story. And what they will do is they will use whatever is relevant at that time to talk about things that will get their ratings to stay high. Are they always working in your best interest? No, because someone's going to always put some degree of spin on a subject matter. Remember that. Remember that Dr. Michael Pollan said somebody's going to put their spin on a subject matter. And you may say the same thing of me, but one thing I will tell you is that I have enough sense to know that regardless of who says what, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do the research myself to get the unvarnished truth. Okay? So, all right. So I've had the opportunity to get that off of my chest. Inflation is a very serious thing. We're all dealing with it. We're seeing gas prices spike, okay? Because of that, transportation costs for major corporations are spiking, okay? Now, think of this for what it's worth. The war in Ukraine is causing this. OPEC is not going to, OPEC is they are working to line the pockets of their investors. They have to produce a return on investment for their investors. So why would they have an interest at this point in time in lowering gas prices? Okay, so if you have oil or gas stock, you're doing pretty doggone good right about now. Okay, why would OPEC go out there and say, "Hey guys, let's start pumping more, let's produce more oil so that we can bring the gas prices down"? No, it's not going to happen. Okay, so they're going to ride this doggone, an elder in my life a long time ago said, when you see they didn't say donkey, but when you see a donkey, the one with the long ears, you ride that son of a gun until the back breaks. So why would we expect that folks who are looking for a return on their investment to actually have a mechanism that's making them a lot of money right now, cut back and curtail those rates that they have control over? So it's not going to happen. Let's not expect that anytime soon. And corporations, likewise, as a result of this overall increase in gas prices, their costs are going up. And when their costs going up, guess what they're going to do to the products that they sell? They're going to adjust those costs accordingly so that they can still maintain some degree of profit within their corporation. Now, you and I are the one that gets squeezed. The consumers get squeezed because we're seeing those price increases. Okay, and we're going to have to deal with them one way or the other. We're not going to be able to get away from it. No time soon. So I say this to you, and I say it in great confidence. I can guarantee you a lot of these CEOs for these major corporations, they're going to start to see their returns increase as well for how they manage this situation. Let me say that again. You're going to see them get their golden parachutes. They're going to produce returns for their stakeholders, shareholders, those individuals who own stock in that company, because that's their goal. That's what they are taught to do. That's what they go to school to learn to do. So while you and I are paying the price, the ones that are at the top, they're still they're still reaping the benefits of those things that we hold near and dear to our heart. The thing we don't know if we're going to be able to feed. There's a shortage of baby formula on the shelves. We don't know if we're going to be able to feed our babies. Okay, so even if we were to address that issue and we start manufacturing more formula today, okay, it's going to come at a cost one way or the other, because the cost of materials across the board has gone up as a result of all of this that's going on in the world. So when these politicians are out there making their commercials, sending you stuff in the mail, calling you on the phone, I like answering the phone when someone on behalf of the politician is is trying to get me to make a donation. I love having a conversation with these guys because I tell them, especially the guy, the poor call center guy that's sitting there making the phone calls, making the contacts, trying to get the donations. I set them straight. I'll tell them point blank. I said, I don't know I know you're supposed to follow the script because, I managed call centers in the past. I know all about writing a script, but I'm going to tell you the truth. And at the end of the day, you're not getting a dime of my money speaking that stuff. You think you're going to speak to my emotions and get me to prematurely make some type of donation? No, it's not going to happen. And I pray to God that everybody else at this stage of the game really starts to pay more attention to some of these politicians and their tactics. I would like for us to get to a point where we can basically hold back on how we participate in some of those polls and nullify them and make them irrelevant. That's something that I would like to see because, quite frankly, I've been disappointed by some polling that I've seen. They have not been purported to be truthful in a lot of respects, and it's just gotten so far out of whack that it's kind of hard to really determine whether or not they're of any value. So I don't pay a lot of attention to what's going on in the polls nowadays. It really doesn't matter. So anyway, all right. So this has been a good 30-minute session. It's a lot to unpack, a lot of information for you to absorb. I just want to take a moment here to thank each and every one of you for listening in. It's our intent, once again, the facilitator, myself, Dr. Michael Pauls, it's our intent to make sure that we give you the unvarnished truth, okay? We're going to bring forth some subject matter over the next couple of sessions that I really want you guys to take the opportunity to pay attention to, listen to it, because it's going to impact your lives in a positive way. So without further ado, I want to thank the Light.Live again for this platform. I want to thank healthiersolutions.com for being a sponsor on this show. And we really want to impress upon you to invite your friends to listen to the conversation. And we will be getting up a blog pretty soon, and we'll give you guys the opportunity to make some comments, and we'll do our best to respond to those in the short period of time that we have. But we just thank you again, and look forward to talking to you next week.